Welcome back to my channel, Statistics for Applied Linguistics. I'm Dr. Marnie Menegra, and in this video today, we are going to look at formatting the reference section and the appendices. So the reference section will come at the end of a research article or of a thesis, right after the conclusion. And the appendices, each appendix is an additional piece of information to a thesis that can be removed, but it's supplementary material that the reader may be interested in. So let's see how we would work with each of these two sections at the end of a thesis. So we'll start with the reference section. Now, the reference section, this is where you're going to put all of the authors that you've cited, the list of authors that were cited for the literature review and the theoretical review. So some basic rules for citing your references, and this is from Purdue OWL, and I'm not going to give all of them, just the most basic ones, is that all of the lines after the first line of each entry in your reference list should be indented 1/2 inch from the left margin. This is called hanging indentation. All authors' names should be inverted, so we've got the last name provided first. And then the first and middle names should be written as initials. So if the name is John Doe Smith, it would be Smith, comma, JD. Now, this one is new with APA 7. So you're going to give the last name and first and or middle initials of all authors of a particular work up to and including 20 authors. Previously, you would only give the first 6, so now you're going to give up to 20, so the reference can get quite long. And the reference list entries should be alphabetized by last name of the first author of each work. Also, for multiple articles by the same author or authors listed in the same order, list the entries in chronological order from earliest to most recent. Now, there are many more rules for references. So if you have a reference for an unusual source, like a website or from a video, you can go to Purdue OWL, and they have just in the menu on the left-hand side, how to reference books, online print sources, electronic sources. You can find how you would format that right here, along with all of the other APA 7 rules. Now, when formatting the references, you do need to remember to format in APA style, and this would be APA 7. So check Purdue OWL, but you also need to include the DOI. And you can find a proper citation through Google Scholar, but you need to find the DOI link. You also need to make sure that you indent it properly. And if you check on the listing, or if you click on the listing in Google Scholar, it will take you to the page to find the link. You might need to click on Cite from the journal page if the DOI is not already linked on the journal page. Otherwise, you might even want to check in ResearchGate and see if in ResearchGate the link is there if you cannot find it on the journal page. Now, the DOI should be formatted as a URL with the HTTPS, and you can see doi.org, and then we have a series of numbers, usually starting with a 10. So in other forms of APA, you might see DOI as capital letters with the colon and then just the number. That is outdated. You should now be using the URL link. And again, remember the first line of the reference is not indented, but the lines below are. So you'll have to reformat once you've copied from Google Scholar if you're taking the citation from Google Scholar. So how to get the citation for the reference list from Google Scholar? Let's say we've got Google Scholar here, and I want to cite this first listing here. I can just click on Cite, and a box will open that will give me how to cite the article, but it gives me several different formats. And I'm going to just go to APA, right-click to copy, and then take it over to my reference list, right-click to paste, and then you're going to need to reformat it. But again, also find that DOI. So on this page here, I don't see the DOI number, so I can click on Cite, And in the citation, I can see the DOI here, but of course, this is an older format for the DOI, so I'm going to need to change that to the URL. So this is an example of what the reference list would look like. We've got references should be centered as per APA rules, and we've got this in alphabetical order. So the first name starts with A, we've got the initials here along with 2019. Now, the article name is not going to be in italics. Now, this, of course, is a doctoral dissertation. This one does not have a DOI. In the second one, there is no DOI either. Not all of the listings will have a DOI, but you can see that the DOI is in the third. Now, also, we're going to use the and sign when we have more than one author. And as you can see here in the second listing, the journal name is in italics along with the volume and the page number. We're not going to be putting the P in for page number, but just the number with a dash and a full stop at the end. And if you can find the DOI link goes at the very end here. So this is how to format the reference section. We're going to look at the appendices now. The appendices will come after the references. And think of an appendix is something that is additional, but you can live without it. So we can take an appendix off of the back of a thesis. Now, when we're formatting the appendices, every single form that you have, or every single test that you have, or any example is going to be in a different appendix. So what I mean by this is if you have a pre-test and a pre-questionnaire and a consent form, these are all things that you can put into the appendices in the back of your thesis. So you might want to have Appendix A is your consent form. Appendix B might be your ethics approval, or you can reverse those. Appendix C might be the pre-questionnaire, and D, the pre-test, post-test. So you're going to put each of those different tests or forms into a different appendix. Each appendix starts on a new page. And you're going to label the appendices with the alphabet, starting with A. But in the case that you run out of letters, you can either double up the letters or go to the Greek alphabet. So you can see here in this example, we've got Appendix V is on page 101, W 102. This student ran out of letters. So now we've got Appendix AA is on page 127. The appendices should not run into each other on the same pages. Again, you're going to put them on new pages. So what goes into the appendices, we've got our consent forms, ethics approvals, blank pre and post tests, and also consent forms. I shouldn't have to say this, but please make sure they are blank. For data protection purposes, you do not want to have your participants' information in the back of your thesis. A blank copy of the questionnaire, maps, any contingency tables. So if you have contingency tables where you've cited or you've reported the statistics in the paragraphs, you don't need the contingency tables. Also in the results section, you will put them into an appendix. Any graphs, charts, or tables that don't really fit into the body of the thesis, but they're there as supplementary material. Observation notes or journals. So if you are taking notes as you are observing students in class, you might want to put those notes in the back, any raw data, and tables with qualitative responses. So you might have a table with examples of qualitative responses inside the thesis, but then you might have the rest of the responses in an appendix. Okay, this brings us to the end of this video of how to format the reference section and the appendices. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.